Hey, it's been a while since I've done a car on the channel, so let's crack this baby open and get started. I'm using this Porsche 944 Turbo from Hot Wheels, and I'm going to make a convertible. Let's get these rivets drilled out. And I'm going to be tapping the post to make it easy to reassemble. I'm using a 2mm metric bolt here. And of course, to chop the top, we're going to need a saw. A jeweler's saw is a must for this kind of thing. And once it's all chopped off and filed smooth, we are ready to send it off to the stripper. Now, I want to go real low with this casting. So we're going to have to shave off whatever is sticking up on the bottom here. That's these little nubs that are in the way. I'm still rocking a bit. I thought I could save these details, but they're going to have to go too. There we go, nice and flush with the ground. And I'm mocking it up here with some possible wheel choices, but we're going to need to add something in the back and the front. But first we'll start with some side skirts. But using this 3mm U-channel of styrene, I'm going to fit a piece over the side. It'll give us a nice stepped detail over the side skirt area. And since it's not going to be exactly even, I'll fill it with baking soda, put it into position, and then put some super glue on to hold it in place. Now, doing the other side, I'm using this block of wood to keep everything the same height. And since I need a little bit more clearance under the rear bumper, I'll chop the bottom off. Now it's time to open up those wheel wells in the rear. Now, after chopping off some of the metal in the back, I do need to get rid of the plastic base that sticks out. I'll start by scoring where that comes to and filing it down, just to get it out of the way. There we go, nice and flush. So this car is going to have a little bit of rake in the back with larger wheels. I also want it to have a whole lot of negative camber. Here's some resin cast parts from Autokill. These were sent to me for being chosen for their build of the month. It was a nice surprise and I got some pretty cool parts in the mail. This is a set of exhaust pipes at different quantities and sizes and different angles. If you're interested in something like this, go check out Autokill on Facebook. So I sent out a poll and it turns out that most of you were keen on the idea of bosozoku, which is the most over-the-top style of car customization you can imagine. So we're going to put a ridiculous front splitter on this and a rear diffuser. For the front, I'm just eyeballing where I want the splitter to come to by laying the car on top of this piece of styrene and just chopping it till it looks good. I thought that the splitter being just flat wasn't cool enough, so I added some little triangle bits on the side. This is completely impractical, but that's kind of the point of these bosozoku cars. Now, I have this bent out of shape wire, and I want it to be straight, so I'll chuck it up in my pin vise here. Hold the other end in some pliers and I'll twist until we have a nice straight rod of steel. Now this is stainless wire, so it will hold its shape. The reason I didn't use styrene is because it's a little bit too fragile for how small I wanted it to be. Oh man, sometimes you just gotta use your fingers, no matter how small the pieces are. Basically what I did is I put the end of the wire into those drilled holes and I bent it down towards the front splitter. It was the best way to make a nice strong connection with the front of the car. And then to connect to the splitter, I used an awl to poke a hole. And then I very gently scraped the protruding part of that off of the back side. And then it was just a matter of pushing those wires into place and checking that it was all even. Looking good to me. Now, I printed this driver guy who has like this cyberpunk armor getup. I'll leave a link to the STL down below in the description. The problem was he was a bit too big, so I had to chop out the seat to get him to sit at the proper height. So he fits in there now, in front of the windshield, but, well, he doesn't have a seat anymore. His lower half is just kind of hanging out there. So for the rear diffuser, I kind of mocked up a shape that I wanted to go for in paper, and then it was time to cut it out of styrene. Finding the middle here and the first bend location, I scored these super lightly. I'm barely pushing here. You can see it's not cut through and allows me to kind of hinge into the proper angle before I solidify that with some glue. Now to get the angle of these exhaust pipes, I just used the ruler and I kind of set it against there. And then I marked to the end of the ruler where it fell on the styrene. Same on the other side, and then it was more scoring. And once that was scored, I could pop that into place. That one bent a little bit too much, but we can fix that with some styrene glue. The important thing is now we can get a better idea of where the corners are going to be. I wanted this to be nice and angular. I needed to reinforce the inside a little bit with some styrene rod and chop out the section that would interfere with the wheels. And then it was just a matter of adding some more styrene on the base and some fins on the interior. Those are made with some 0.25 millimeter styrene sheeting. And that is looking pretty sweet to me. And you can see it from the side as well. I went ahead and glued those rear tires onto the black base plastic. And I stuck the car to this board with some sticky tack or poster tack. That'll help me by keeping it from moving around when I'm trying to glue the rear diffuser into place. And once that was glued on, I had a pretty good amount of clearance in the back, and I added a couple triangles of styrene on the rear there. I had to look through my bits boxes, and I found the perfect piece to go on the hood of this car. Just had to shave it down to glue it into place. And sometimes I use this technique that I don't know if I can recommend it to you because I don't know how dangerous it is. But basically I melt the styrene a little bit with the styrene glue, and then I put super glue over top of that before it's dry. Do it in a well-ventilated area, of course, or don't do it at all. I just layered up some styrene for the retracted roof, glued it together with styrene glue, and sanded it smooth. For the fronts, I wanted to put these Advan style 3-spoke wheels. So I filed the bottom just enough to give some negative camber, like the rears. And that was looking pretty spiffy. I glued the front wheels in place on the base, you can see here. And I added some styrene spikes to the front wheels. It was a way to cover up the axle hole that I didn't end up using, and also give a nice little detail. But this thing is all ready to go. Let's get it primed up. Hey, look, you guys are late. I already put down a base coat of orange. I'll paint the hood in this matte metallic gray. And I mixed up a nice dark gray for the rear diffuser. And also, I went a little bit darker for the front splitter. It's almost black. And I thought that orange was a little bit simple, so I took some of my smallest masking tape and I sliced it even smaller to create some nice diagonal stripes on the side of this car. It's super important when you do masking that you make sure the edges are really pressed down, or else the paint will suck right underneath there. I like to use a toothpick to press it in. Now that that is all taped up, masked off, I will stipple on a very small amount of red at first, just to make sure we don't get any under that tape. I went over it with another coat that I didn't show on camera. Taking the masking tape off is always magical. I hit the lights with a silver, and I used the same silver, which is a little bit matte, let's call it satin, on the wheels and the exhaust. I was sure to paint the interior with my favorite tan color, and I mixed up a cool gray for the base color of this man's armor. I realized after I painted most of the armor that there was actually some skin, quite a bit of skin visible. So I used a lighter tan and mixed in some browns and reds, and I was able to get a pretty good render on his skin. And I edge highlighted with some metallic silver. For the convertible top, I just dipped the light gray primed styrene into a black wash multiple times and dabbed it off with a tissue. I washed the wheels with a burnt sienna color. Touched up the black and brushed on some clear red glossy paint for the tail lights. Of course, I added my pigment powder all over the appropriate areas, and you can see I also brushed on some nice turquoise color to the spikes of the wheels and the exhaust tips. Everything else got this nice dusty coat of pigments, which are crushed pastels. Then I screwed it all together with that nice drilled and tapped post. And there was just one more thing to add. My driver's little co-pilot. I 3D printed this dog and painted him up like my dog. And I stuck him in the passenger seat there, just having a snooze. I really love how this car came out. This is completely crazy. You would never be able to drive this on the regular road, let alone in the wasteland. It's super low to the ground. There's stupid negative camber. But, oh man, I think it came out so great. The orange and the red, at first I wasn't sure about it, especially with the taillights being red. But the different textures and finishes, man, it just really helped out. Something new that I tried out this time was this panel liner from Tamiya, and I realized that this is an enamel. Using it as a wash to go into the panel lines, you can basically wipe it off of the acrylic with almost nothing left behind where you'd like to. And I know that Night Shift, who's a really knowledgeable channel about this kind of thing, always talks about layering acrylics and enamels and different types of paint, but this is the first time I've ever tried it successfully, and I'm going to experiment a lot more with that in the future. You can see what we started with and what we ended up with. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate all your support. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell if you want to get updated on all my new videos. And I will see you on the next build.